Hello and g'day! In today's video we're making glassine napkins with a twist. We're going to use the colour that comes out of these napkins and use it in the next napkin. We can either put it on the next napkin, which is just a plain white one like this, or we can put it on a piece of cardstock. I'm also going to show you how you can use the iron-on melting candle wax technique to make collage faux glassine. This is the same technique that I showed you how to do in part 1. If you haven't seen part 1, go check it out. It's the basic steps on how to do the faux glassine napkins. Right, to start off, we'll do the easy one first, which is the colour transfer technique. You can do this with plain white. So these are just the ply that's been removed off the first lot of tissue. Say you're going to use this napkin here and it was 3 ply. We've removed that layer off and this layer off. So they're the removed layers, right? You can reuse them. Or you can just buy plain white napkins. These are 3 ply napkins and I just separated the ply. You can also get another pattern that's got, not much on it at all. And this one here has not been coloured. You can see that. And this one has. It's had the colour transferred to it. If you were making a journal with these colours in it, you could have it both for a bit of interest, and you can make envelopes or little pockets or whatever you want. Mostly envelopes we use the glassine for. Here's just a plain piece like this with the colour transfer. Yellows, a little bit of blue and a lot of pink and red. This one here, you can see that when it was turned into the glassine that the colours have come out of the image, and it's not only coloured some of its own background, it's given me the colour to be able to come along and do this. So these are the types of things that you need. These very colourful things will help get this transfer method done for you. This one here would be ideal. Mostly the reds and the yellows come out the best, but use whatever you've got to do it. Let's see what this purple one does. So I'm going to open up my 2 sheets of transfer paper. If you've missed how I've done this, go back to part 1 and watch the basic steps. I'm using just the paraffin candle wax and I'm going to put some straight in the middle of the image. I'm going to end up with 2 things here. I'm going to have this image here turned into a bit of glassine, and I'm going to get some colour distributed onto my sheets. I don't know what's going to bleed until it bleeds. You can see this one is. I'm getting a little bit of colour out of here and I'm pushing the colour around. We need to do a few of these until I can get what it is that I want. So I'm getting some great colour here. This one is going to also give you a good look at what the difference is by using a white napkin compared to one that's full of colour. So I'm just going to dry this. So it definitely turned it into glassine, but you can see the difference that it's not as clear as the white. Depending on what you want to make is to which colour that you use. But that still looks lovely. It's made those colours come out nice and rich. Some of the napkins bleed. You'll get the red coming out here and it looks almost watercolor and it looks really good. Because I'm trying to get it to do it, it's not doing it like this one did. You can see the reds come out from here and transferred out. But if I was to put this on here now, all these colours here would transfer onto this. So let's keep going. I might see if I can get some colour out of this one here because it is very colourful. I just need to remove the ply. I won't make you watch me do that. So I'm just going to start by melting the wax that's dried. I'm just getting a bit of residual wax in there. And seeing where this is going to go. There's a fair bit of wax left over there, so it's stuck to there. So I'll put some more wax down. It doesn't matter whether it's on the bottom or the top, it's still going to go through. There you go, you can see it pushing around. I'll bring you down. Can you see it sort of bubbling away there? And as I push the iron, you can see it moving around. See that? So you just keep doing that until you move it to the edge. See there? That's what you're aiming for. You get that wax melted and then you start moving it until it moves. You can use the nose of the iron and just pushing it around. So the objective is to do two things here. We're going to be able to use the napkin as a piece of glassine and we're going to be able to use the dye that we've pushed out of it. I'll open that up. It's funny when you make videos. I seem to commentate every single step. I mean, it's pretty obvious when I take a piece of paper off, I'm opening it up. Oh, that's funny. Right, this piece turned out surprisingly beautiful. Even the colour stripes. You don't know what you're going to get from tissue to tissue. You just don't. Every different manufacturer uses a different paper which will give you a different result, and I love that. It's like a lucky dip. I'm really surprised. So we've got a bit of white in the background of the flowers there, and that's come through here. But you can see where the colour has moved out of the flowers and the stripes, and the residual from last time has come into the white area here. So if you want to keep your white area on a piece of tissue like this, you won't be able to. So bear that in mind. You're going to get colour transfer. That if I want a plain white piece, I would not come in now and put that on here and press that on if I wanted to keep that white, because it's not going to happen. But now I'm going to show you the transfer technique, because I think I've got enough colour on this sheet to put on here. This one here is the ghost image from this one. So I'm going to transfer a bit of colour back on this one and on this one. So we'll do this one first. You can see the difference when I put it down like that. You can see the ghost image a bit better. I'm going to start off by using the residual wax. I've got wax on both sheets, the bottom sheet and the top sheet. So I'm going to, this time, I'm going to melt the wax and I'm going to move it back in. I don't want to press it out this time. As you melt it, you move it back in. And you can see that there. It melts really easy because it's just the residual. So Once you've melted it, it'll move around wherever you push it. The more you iron it, the more it's going to move. My paper was getting crinkled, so I just lift that up. Some more over here. You've got to be careful that you don't push it out. I'm going to use my iron on the side a bit and use it like a squeegee and push it back in. It's a good way to clean up that waxy dye. Put that on there and let's have a look at it. See how it's taken up all that dye? Right, now I'm actually going to put some plain beads on here because there's not quite enough wax to finish that off. Doesn't need much. There's only a few spots on there that didn't get the wax. I'm going to melt that. Doesn't matter that it's not on top of the napkin. It's gone on the bottom sheet. It doesn't matter at all because it's going to soak through. And it doesn't matter that it's clear because it's going to add to the lovely finish of it. It's going to look really nice. You don't know what you're going to get until it's finished. It's so random. So just now finish that off because now I know I've got wax all over it. I can push some of the colour out and spread it around and I'll get this lovely finish. So I'm going to just want to move that out of the way so I don't get wax transfer. Pick up my corners, dry it off. And that is how good the colour transfer technique looks. It's still very clear, but it's got that hint of colour in it. And I've used the ghost from this tissue here. I can also come along now and use a plain clear piece alongside it as well. And I'll show you what that looks like. How cool's that? The colour transfer technique. It's so good. I'm going to transfer all this waxy colour onto a piece of cardstock. I'm going to use this card I tea dyed earlier. Which side will I do? That away. I'm not adding any extra wax. I'm only going to use the residual colour and wax that's already between the baking sheets here. Ho ho ho, look at this. You can use this waxy dye colour as a background on any card. It's a bonus. It does the front and back at the same time. This will give a beautiful background on any card. I'm loving this. It's almost tie-dyed. It looks good on tags too. Now you can put this away and keep it, this bit of paper here, it will keep. So I've got one for just my whites here, 2 pieces. I'll put that away. And I've got one here with the colour and I'll put that away. So if I want to add a bit of colour, say I change my mind on this one, all I've got to do is bring my iron back on that, warm it up, open it up and pop this piece back inside there and transfer some colour onto this. The next technique is the collaging. So I'll just clear this up and get that ready for you. Using the collage technique is fun. I'm going to be straight up front with you. It is a little bit fiddly, but the rewards are wonderful. You get glassine paper with the effect of a collage. So there's one that I've used a bit of tissue. This is also tissue, which we call napkin. This is napkin and I've stamped it myself. Some restaurants are very aware of the environment, so this is a recycled napkin. Some have them in a very messy state and some have them in a very nice, neat state. The neat one is the one I used here, and I just stamped all over it. So this one here, I've just picked out my favourite stamps. I've used smallish stamps and just randomly stamped all over the place. This one here are individual letters, but I just put them on a block and then just stamped them here. The same with this one. These were all individual letters and I just used an individual line stamp and made the background. So when you use the recycled napkin, it turns out beautiful. Look at that. It is the best glassine. I love it. And you can make little envelopes out of it and they look like this. They are gorgeous. But look at the richness. Look at the wax, how it made this so rich, and you can see right through it. How cool is that? That's what that one looked like when I just tore a little bit of the corner off. There's a bit of pattern paper and there's a bit of another napkin there. You can stamp directly onto your leftover ply off the back of your sheets like this. This one's come off the back of this. So then you just stamp whatever you want on that and rip that off. So that's what you can use for your collaging. It's very fine and it disappears when you lay it down and wax it on. There's another one. I used a very fine paper for this one, and I mean the fine paper, very, very fine. It's receipt type paper. There's another one, and there's another one. So let me show you how it's done. Get your wax ready. Your clean paper, and just be aware when you use this method, if you're using a colour with red in it, you're going to get a little bit of bleed from the red. So use a smallish amount, like this one here. I used a small amount of the coloured one. Little bit of transfer of the colour there, but it adds to it and looks really good. Use an overlap, it always looks good. So we'll start off with a very simple one first. You can even do just, one tiny layer, just like this one here. This one's just one style of napkin. That is one pattern. And then I just put one little snippet of this piece here. That there still would make a nice little envelope or bag and be interesting enough. You need some plain tissue, the plain white, to start you off, because that's going to be your background. You can go, the smaller the easier. So your main piece, your focal piece, you can either have a focal piece like I've done here, which is that piece there, could even be that piece, whichever you decide. And you know that you can use a water brush to rip your paper, or you can just rip it by hand. If it's a little bit ripped, it always looks good. Using your paintbrush, with a little bit of water on it, and just rip your tissue. Doesn't have to be neat, because that's the magic of making this look so good, because nothing needs to make sense, okay? That straight line there, I'll show you another way to get rid of that straight line. So I'm just going to wet the straight line, and I'm going to use my pokey tool and just pull the edge of it. You can also use your fingers. That gives you a nice ripped edge. I'm going to lay that there, and we'll pick out, say, this piece here. I don't know where I'm going to put it yet, so I might put it there. I think that'll look all right there. This piece here is a piece of pattern paper, and I've just stamped it. I'm not worried about the straight line on this one, so I'm going to lift it up and I'm going to pop it under there. So I'm just going to leave it with those 3 pieces. I'm not going to try and add a 4th piece, but we can add a 4th piece later. Keep it simple. You don't have to go overboard. So I'll just now transfer this in between these 2 layered sheets here. So I'm just going to pick it up. And lay that down. Put my wax on it. You need to make sure you've got enough wax. You don't want to try and be doing this too many times. You don't want to be adding wax to the corners too much. Just leave it like this and use the top sheet and show you what happens and what can happen by doing it 2 different ways. We can do it with just the bottom sheet to turn into glassine. This baking paper can sometimes make the collage pieces stick to it and come away from my back sheet. The objective is to get my little collage pieces to stick to my back sheet and stay there. Melting and then spreading. Get into the habit of melt and spread. And you'll see a bit of colour transfer coming out onto the happy mail area. Okay, so now it's not catching on to that. I'm peeling it back carefully. And you need to see how I started coming from this side first and it started lifting up my transfer. I don't want these 3 top pieces to lift away from my bottom piece. So now I very carefully lift my whole bottom piece off without ripping it. See how I've left that cool down too much before I started to lift it? That is why it ripped, because I was talking to you, I've ripped it. So I really should have gone in straight away and lifted that off. It's just too dry there. Okay, so to fix that, I'm just going to give that a little quick iron and remelt it. Oh, I have got a rip there. Like I said, if I hadn't been talking to you, I would not have ripped that. It would have come away nicely. But I can still use this. But how pretty is that? The other thing is, and it's back to what I said to you before, don't try and do too big a piece with this method, because that's when you start to get into difficulty. See a bit of colour bleed here? It's just lovely. I love it. Okay, let's do another one. It's very light and I love it because it actually, look, it works really well for the glassine. So we'll use a bit of that. The colours are nice and it goes with my theme here for Paris, a bit of a travelling theme. We'll use a little bit of my napkin that I've done my own stamping on. I'll put that over the top. I like doing it like that because it actually you'll be able to see everything through this. Okay, so how we do the collage waxing technique, just to have it on its own, so we can end up with a piece like that. It's absolutely beautiful because when you put it on a layer on top of a card, you know, if you want to make a journal card or a tag, it looks absolutely beautiful because you can see your colours behind it. So you can really use this in a you know, a different way. So we've got our bottom sheet non-stick down. We've got our 3 collage pieces over the top. Don't put too many down until you get this technique down pat. It's not an easy technique to do. You've got to have patience to do this. You've got to take your time. You'll need some sort of tool to be able to lift your edges up, or your fingernails if you want to use your finger tools. Put your top sheet over and melt down these wax beads. If you're using the tea light candles, just use your shavings, sprinkle them over the top, same thing. Spread that out. I'm getting a little bit of colour bleed here, which gives me that interesting colour. Flatten it out and spread it. So I know I've got wax all over those pieces now because I can see it. Going to lift off the top sheet. It's lovely and wet. I'm going to go for the heaviest corner, which is my paper, and just lift that off. This is a wonderful technique. Your 3 pieces don't always lift off together. If you've got something overlapping each other like this, this technique works really well. Doesn't that look fabulous? And what a fluke, it fits. So give the collaging technique a go. If you try and do it on a backing like this one, it is a lot harder. Can be done, but it is way more fiddly. You have to be patient. You have to love doing this type of work. Well, that's how you do the colour transfer and the collage candle wax technique. It's a fabulous new idea. You saw it here first at Junk Journal Ideas. I'm Donna. Thanks for watching and bye for now.